Okay, I think my first obligation today is to thank Enough is Enough and the other partners for the kind invitation. There is nothing that gives me joy like engaging with citizens, conversation. I really love it. So I'm joined today by 8 national commissioners, virtually all the national commissioners present in Abuja. But I'm also a bit clever by inviting them so that difficult questions can be shared with the commissioners so that there'll be collective response from all of us. I understand that the program is structured in 3 segments: the voter registration, security and logistics, and political parties. And the purpose is to have a conversation with Nigerians on elections. And therefore, my opening remarks will not be a lecture. Although it's tempting to actually deliver the lecture and take all the time talking, that later we have very little time for the conversation. So I will not deliver a lecture. I will just set the scene for us to have a lovely conversation. What is the relationship between democracy and elections? It is symbiotic. Conducting elections does not indicate that democracy exists. But democracy does not exist without periodic elections. So it's like the proverbial chicken and egg, which one comes first? Does anyone have an answer here? Which one comes first, chicken or egg? A friend of mine actually solved the riddle for us. We attended a meeting and they brought some chicken parts as snacks. And it's chicken parts fried in egg. He said, thank God we have solved the riddle today. Which one comes first, chicken or egg? They are now coming together. So sometimes, democracy and elections come together. So we solve the riddle in that sense. Democracy does not exist by elections alone, but democracy can't exist without elections. And by the same token, good elections anywhere in the world cannot happen by actions or inactions of the election management body alone. INEC alone can't deliver good elections. Good elections can only be delivered with the involvement of citizens. All we do is actually to protect the votes cast by citizens. Without citizens, no electoral commission can deliver credible elections. And this is also a further affirmation of the importance of this conversation. Speaking to an audience like this, I always find it appropriate to remind Nigerians of what it means to conduct general elections in Nigeria. Often we overlook that. Elections will hold in 1,491 constituencies in 2023. Starting with the national elections, presidential 1 constituency, 109 senatorial districts, 360 federal constituencies, 491 constituencies. 471 constituencies. But then you have the state constituencies, the governorship election in 28 states, because in 8 states of the federation, the elections are now conducted off-season, like the one we are going to conduct in exactly 2 weeks from today in Ekiti, followed by the Osun governorship elections on the 16th of next month, July. So for state elections, we have 28 governorship elections and 993 state constituencies for election of members of the state houses of assembly. So a total of 1,491 constituencies. But each party that nominates candidates for all the constituencies will not nominate 1,491 candidates. They will nominate 1,520. Reason? For the presidential, parties will nominate the candidate and running mate. And for the 28 governorship, they will nominate the governorship candidates and the deputy governorship candidates. It's a joint ticket. So 1,520. The voter population, we are right now projecting the voter population at 90 million, but I think it may go a bit higher depending on the outcome of the engagement with citizens, leading to the surge in the number of registrants that we are seeing around the country. But we are working on a figure of 90 million. Election is the most extensive mobilization that happens in Nigeria, whether in peacetime or wartime. There is nothing like that. It's the most extensive mobilization of citizens. Simultaneously, in 176,846 constituencies, citizens are going to vote on the same day in towns and villages, irrespective of terrain and location. Even the collation and declaration of results will take place in over 11,000 locations, not just conduct of elections. So to say that conducting an election in Nigeria is huge is actually an understatement. There are 15 countries in the West African sub-region, including Nigeria. The number of registered voters in Nigeria as of 2019 was 84 million. The total number of registered voters in all the other 14 countries combined is 73 million. We have 11 million more than the whole of West Africa, all the other countries combined. So each time Nigeria goes to the polls, it's like conducting elections in the whole of West Africa. Take the case of Ekiti, for instance. In terms of the number of registered voters, Ekiti is the smallest state in Nigeria with about 1 million registered voters. There's a little over 900,000. But it has more registered voters than the Republic of Gambia. It has more registered voters than the Republic of Cape Verde, more registered voters than the Republic of Guinea-Bissau. Just Ekiti state in Nigeria. So our country is really huge. Elections also test the collective capacities and weaknesses of a country to its limits. The anxiety, the hopes, the fears, the high expectations, the desperation, the despondency by competing actors and interests characterize all elections. And it is the accumulation of these complexities that INEC, one agency, is supposed to manage. It's really, really huge. INEC is more than an election management body because it has extensive responsibilities that for any country of our size and complexity only happens in Nigeria. We register voters. Right now we are doing the voter registration. This is not an easy undertaking. In places like Sierra Leone and Kenya, there is a different agency responsible for handling voter registration so that the Electoral Commission focuses on election administration. But here we register voters. Our registration means a lot more than just people going to register as voters. There are other activities related to voter registration, which I hope we'll find time to discuss. We register and regulate political parties, including monitoring of party finance, their primaries, their congresses, their meetings, and their conventions. All one agency. We prosecute electoral offenders. That is what the law requires us to do. But for the last 7 years, I've been saying that this responsibility should be taken away from INEC. Because the law has saddled us with a responsibility for which we neither have the training nor capacity to successfully implement. To successfully prosecute, you have to arrest. We have no police. There is no INEC police. To successfully prosecute, you have to have the evidence, meaning that you have to conduct investigation. We have no capacity to investigate. And above all, some of the electoral offenders may be our own staff. How do we prosecute ourselves? So let's have another agency that prosecutes all offenders, irrespective of who they are. And we have been saying so, and it's nothing new. The West Committee recommended it, not implemented. The Lemu Committee, after the 2011 post-election violence, recommended it, not yet implemented. And also the Ken Namani Committee recommended it in 2017. But I learned that the bill has gone through, I think, second reading in the two chambers of the National Assembly. I hope something will happen, and we're relieved of that responsibility. Occasionally, we may succeed in prosecuting offenders, like the professor in one of the states, or the 40 offenders we prosecuted in Minjibir in Kano in 2016, 2017. But we need to do a rethink on that. The commission creates polling units and allot voters to polling units. We delimit constituencies, and there is a requirement in the Constitution for periodic review of the delimitation of constituencies. We do voter education and publicity. We handle electoral logistics. We do election security in consultation with the security agencies. We formulate regulations and guidelines for the conduct of elections, similar to the one that we unveiled yesterday, and is already on our website. We maintain extensive fiscal assets. Many people don't know that INEC actually maintains the most extensive fiscal assets. Almost second to one or two agencies of government. We have offices in all the states of the Federation, in the capital cities, offices in the local government areas. We have the headquarters, we have annex, we have electoral institute, we have staff quarters, we have disaster recovery centers, almost 1,000 buildings to maintain. So we are conducting elections. We're also worried about maintenance of fiscal assets. And in Nigeria today, there is no election season any longer. We conduct elections all year round. Ekiti in the next 2 weeks. Oshun on 16th July. But we're not done yet, because as we speak, we have 20 pending by-elections. 20 pending by-elections. One has gone to court, so there's an order restraining us, so we have 19, including 3 senatorial districts, the equivalent of 1 governorship election. Each time you conduct 3 senatorial by-elections, it's as if you are conducting 1 governorship election. Because in each state of the Federation, there are only 3 senatorial districts. Then we have to focus on new innovations, particularly in the area of ICT. We have been doing a lot, accreditation of observers, of the media, polling agents for elections, management of election results, accreditation of voters on election day. We engage with the stakeholders. Every quarter we meet with stakeholders, whether there is something to discuss or not, or as the need arises. It's the same commission handling all this. And we engage thousands of service providers, literally thousands of service providers, replacing lost or damaged facilities and providing facilities that we require for elections. How many Nigerians know that for the 2023 general elections, on the basis of a projection of 90 million voters, we are going to print 90 million ballot papers for the presidential election, the same quantities for the governorship, for the National Assembly, House, and Senate, the same quantities for state constituency, and about 70 million for the governorship elections. Because, as I said, we'll only conduct the elections in 28 states. That is 430 million ballot papers to be produced for the 2023 general elections. 430 million. By the time you add the result sheets and other documents, we're inching close to 500 million documents to print. But by the time we also discuss later on this continuous voter registration, I will also speak to the millions and millions of paper that we have to produce as a legal requirement for the election. So the commission is grappling with that. Then we have different views and different interpretations of the law, the electoral legal framework. I hope there will be an opportunity also to elaborate on that. Different interpretations. Sometimes people don't read the law with a fine comb, particularly where the law says INEC should take this action not later than a particular date, meaning that the law does not stop the commission from taking the action earlier, because there are other sections of the law that also require the commission to do a lot more. But where the law doesn't want INEC to take an action before a particular date, they will say, don't take this action earlier than that date. So it has to be later. And sometimes the law will say, take this action on a particular day. For instance, the law says that campaign in public must stop 24 hours to the election. It's fixed. Or don't conduct elections earlier than 150 days to the end of tenure, and not later than 30 days before the end of tenure. Or you register voters, but stop the registration of voters not later than 90 days before the date fixed for the election. Meaning that nothing stops the commission from stopping it earlier, and there are 1,000,001 things to do in between the end of the voter registration exercise and the conduct of elections. I hope there will be time for us to discuss all this. So with these extensive responsibilities, it is clear that delivering credible elections require partnership with all and sundry. And that is, for me, what makes this conversation really, really important. And I hope there will be many more of these conversations as we approach the election. The Commission benefits from the involvement of citizens and from the feedback. The truth of the matter is that there is no commission that does not value criticisms, unless it is not out to do the right thing. If someone criticizes you validly, you have been validly criticized. But if someone condemns you for the sake of condemnation, you just shrug it off and laugh. But sometimes, people may make suggestions, may criticize the commission validly. We take notes. You see in our subsequent action that we have taken into consideration those criticisms and suggestions. That's the only way to build a nation and to continue to build and consolidate our democracy. I look forward to a very incisive conversation. God bless you all.